It's Friday, July 17th, and here's what you need to know by noon. 2 Supreme Court justices, one conservative, one liberal, sit side by side and ask taxpayers for more security money, describing threats that have gotten personal. Plus, the war with Iran grinds on even as both sides talk peace. A warning sign flashes in the markets, and Taiwan's chip giant bets another $100 billion on America. Let's get into it. We start at the Supreme Court, or really, on Capitol Hill. In a rare appearance this week, Justices Amy Coney Barrett and Elena Kagan testified before a House committee to defend the court's budget and to ask Congress for more money to keep the justices safe. Here's the tell that this isn't a partisan story. Barrett, a conservative, and Kagan, a liberal, sat next to each other making the very same plea. The court is asking for about $228 million, a fraction of 1% of the federal budget, with much of the new money going to security. And the justices say they need it. Barrett told lawmakers, quote, "The threat level is really high, and that justices have been getting threatening, anonymous deliveries designed to intimidate and harass them." Then it got personal. Barrett described being sent home with a bulletproof vest after the Dobbs abortion leak, and her 12-year-old son finding it in her bedroom doorway. Quote, "He wanted to know what it was." She said she never expected to explain to her children what a bulletproof vest was, and why she had to wear one. She also recounted a swatting incident just weeks ago. Police sent to her home by a fake emergency call. Now here's a tension worth naming. Some conservatives find it rich that this is the same court that, 2 weeks ago, struck down President Trump's order ending birthright citizenship. A 6-3 ruling that Barrett, a Trump appointee, joined. They say, why should taxpayers fund more security for that? Others counter that the threats are real and bipartisan. Kagan faces them too, and that a justice's safety shouldn't hinge on whether you liked her last vote. We'll give you both. You draw the line. The justices didn't agree on everything either. Kagan drew a line of her own, saying, quote, "Criticism is fair game, but intimidation is a different thing entirely. A caution aimed at political figures who attack judges." And on the court's emergency docket, Kagan admitted some recent orders came with so little explanation that lower courts struggled. Barrett was gentler, saying the court is doing its best to adapt. Here's the rest of what's happening. First, the war with Iran. American and Iranian forces are still trading strikes across the Gulf, and the U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports remains in place, keeping the Strait of Hormuz choked. There's a flicker of diplomacy. President Trump says Tehran wants to settle, and Vice President Vance is leading talks toward an interim deal. But the missiles are still flying. One piece of relief. Oil has eased back from its highs, with Brent slipping to around $84 a barrel. Second, a warning light in the markets. The International Monetary Fund says global inflation's long slide has, quote, "stalled. Cooling has stopped, thanks in part to the war and stubborn labor markets." Wall Street felt it. Stocks slipped, and the market's so-called fear gauge, the VIX, jumped about 7%. It all sharpens the question hanging over the Federal Reserve. And third, a big bet on American manufacturing. TSMC, the Taiwanese company that makes most of the world's most advanced chips, announced it's investing another $100 billion in Arizona, with as many as 4 new factories. That brings its total U.S. commitment to about $265 billion. The announcement came the same day it reported profits that blew past Wall Street's forecasts. So what should you watch? 2 things. First, the Federal Reserve meets at the end of the month, July 28th and 29th, caught between that stalled inflation and oil swinging on the war. And second, whether the Iran talks actually produce a deal or the strikes swallow them. That's the tension to follow. Markets news, not advice. And that's Friday, caught up. 2 justices asking for protection in a tense moment, a war that won't quite end or escalate, a market warning light, and a $100 billion bet on American chips. We'll be back tomorrow morning. This has been No by Noon.